again, everybody, I've got Pam here as my guest host today. Um, she's from Perfectly Holistic. She's a certified holistic health practitioner specializing in energy work, nutrition, natural remedies for pets. And today we are going to be pulling back the cover on what we called, the food that our vet sells us that says it's prescription food. And every time we do one of these lives, I always dig into our subject and I just learn a little bit more about it. And I was astounded what I learned today. I am so shocked
Mm-hmm.
and so flabbergasted. It reminds me of Ryan, when he would always tell me about puffery, about what's on the label, what's on the label.
Yeah.
And one of my first questions I had asked, this is one of my questions. Let me find where I put it here. I said, does, and I choose Hills because it was one that I was looking at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Does Hills prescription pet food, is it a marketing hype or is it actually medicine? And there's no medicine in it.
Zero.
That killed me.
It's all marketing.
I mean, I mean, I have to say that I was gaslit this whole time, thinking like, well, maybe they do put some sort of medicine in there. I never really dug into it and never went this deep into it. And when I found out today that there's no narcotics, there's no Western medicine, it's just formulated food that they say, oh, this is good for their kidneys or this is good for their weight or whatever. It's a gimmick.
And they charge you like 3 times the price of a regular kind of food, and that could be very generous. It could be more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and they make you feel. I mean, how many times have I seen people that have come on our lives that say, "Oh, I feed science diet. It's got to be good for them," you know. And I was talking to someone else today about pet food. We were just happened to be talking, and all of a sudden they were like, "going, oh, her husband used to be a veterinarian,"
Uh,
and and she was like, "Michael," she goes, "it's horrible what's going on in the vet world these days." She was back, back way back when vets were coming along and we needed vets and
yeah.
they were on it, when we really depended on them. But now it's like this full blown business, especially now that Mars owns them, a lot of them. And the fact that this food that they're promoting as a scientifically, developed food for these issues, it's
Hmm.
really not. And it just blew me away. I mean, how long have you known this, Pam?
Several years.
Several years?
Several years. Yeah. Yeah. Um, when you start to dive into actual ingredients of pet food and you learn what each is and what they contribute to the body, good or bad, and then you look at the veterinary prescription foods, it's no different. You know what I mean? And Purina is actually in a lawsuit right now for marketing claims of prescription pet food because there is no medication and they're requiring a prescription for it when it's not medicinal in any way. So they are involved in a lawsuit, and I really hope they lose their shirt. Because how many pet parents are told in the vet clinic, your pet's going to die if you don't feed them this food? They put so much fear, but they don't explain that there is absolutely zero medicinal, you know, ingredient. There's nothing medicinal on any level in this food. Zero.
Yeah, zero.
Zero.
I mean, you're saying zero, and I'm sitting here going zero. Yeah, it's zero. It's ridiculous. It's zero.
Well, and here's something else. I want everybody to do this because when you deep dive and research something yourself, don't take our word for it, but go look it up yourself. Go online and go to one of the prescription, foods that they sell online for cats and look at the ingredient panel. And then I want you to go pick any grocery store brand of food. And, common brands that you see, Purina, Iams, Friskies, Meow Mix, whatever. Turn the bag around or turn the product, read the label on that product and tell me what is the difference between the prescription ingredients and the grocery store ingredients. That is very eye-opening. People need to understand. One is $10 a bag and one is 50. Wow.
Yeah, and it was crazy because I was talking to my friend Jennifer, who I had lunch with today, and when we were talking about this, and she was talking about these people, they have a big dog, they just run to Costco, they get a big bag of kibble, and they think that's the answer, and it saves them money. And I even stopped her. I said, "Wait a second, Jennifer, let's think about this for 1 second. Does it save them money? It doesn't, because what's inside there? It's carcinogenic, a lot of that stuff. And what did they deal with later on in life?" I said, "You just took your dog to the vet, and you're taking him all the time. And I don't want to know what your vet bill is this last year, but what was your last one?" She goes, "It was $6,000. And I'm like going, $6,000, and what was it for? Cancer.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so where did you spend your money? Did you spend money on feeding them the best food possible as they were growing up? Or did you feed them kibble, and then all of a sudden now you have all these medical bills?" And then I said, "Well, how much do you think you spent on them last year?" She goes, "About 50.
50 grand?
Yep.
How does people afford that?
Well, they're of a certain lifestyle.
Okay. But the average person wouldn't even be an option, right?
Not at all.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
But when you understand that there's a veterinary model and it's not about healthcare, it's about sick care. When you really pull back the layers and you look behind the curtain, it's about sick care. There's nothing proactive, there's nothing preventative. It's problem, treat a symptom. Problem, treat a symptom. And the food that they push and the vaccines that they push and the flea and tick medications and heartworm stuff that they push creates problems. So they have to keep coming back in for, oh, now they have this issue, now they have this issue. And they're on this merry-go-round and cycle of problem, symptom, medication, problem, symptom, medication, and they can't get out of it. Yeah, and prescription food is not going to solve your problem. It probably is going to exacerbate the problem long term.
Well, yeah, in the long, it was like right here. It says, "Together we'll pull back the curtain." This is an intro that I didn't finish, but it says, "Together we'll pull back the curtain on the veterinarian prescribed diets, discuss Purina's ongoing lawsuit, and highlight why many cats and dogs might be better off without prescription dry food."
100%.
So here it is. And, everybody in the chat, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Thank you again for joining us on Tuesday night. We'd love to be here. We're digging into this information just like you guys should be digging into the information as well. What you guys hear from us, we're doing our homework. And, we don't shame anybody for feeding their dog kibble or their cat kibble or anything like that, because we grew up with that. We knew. That's all we knew growing up was kibble. It seemed like the magic, TV dinner of the, 1970s, and so that was the dog TV dinner or cat TV dinner was kibble. But once we now know that we can start to learn about this stuff and really dive into it, yeah, Lori, we just talked about that. You're saying nothing prescriptive about prescription food. There's nothing. All it is just a balance.
It's a formulation. It's a special formulation.
Yep, it's a formulation.
Claim is a proprietary, it's a proprietary formulation or whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Well, and I looked at the formulation, and if you look at their formulations and then you look at the other dog food that's on the shelf, a lot of it's the exact same stuff. It's not
Exactly.
it's not like
Exactly.
they're just calling it, oh, liver support. They're calling it, GI support, but it's like it's the same stuff. And when you really start to look at it, yes, Lori, it's all marketing. It's all marketing. And that's why we do this channel. That's why we are here to be able to share this information for you guys to be able to download it for your pets, but also we're making you members without you guys knowing it. We want you to go out and spread this information with the people that you know that love pets so they know too, because they may not know.
Mhm.
They may not be listening to a channel like ours.
Most people don't. They trust. We have grown up in a society where we put a lot of weight on titles and education and the letters by your name, what school you went to, and it's no different walking into a vet clinic. They have a white coat with their little name on it and all the letters beside it. So we think, okay, well, they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to medical school and they've learned all this information, and that's fine and well, but at the end of the day, they're trained in sick care.
Yeah.
It's not about health care unless you have an integrative, holistic, proactive wellness veterinarian who is learning on their own, paying out of their own pocket to go study something beyond vet school and learn different things and different modalities of healing and different philosophies of wellness and things like that. And it's on them to go do those things. And a lot of times some of these vets are just so overworked. They are stuck in a system. They don't have time to go learn something new, because it takes a commitment and it takes money and it takes time to go. Maybe you have to travel, maybe you just have to they have to sacrifice something in order to go learn how to
But
do better, how to do different.
yeah, and
Don't we all?
they need to have that passion. They've got, it's like they had the passion to go to vet school to be able to help dogs and cats
Yeah,
and they're ill and all that.
great.
But they also need to have that passion of the nutritional side of it and how do we keep them healthy. I mean, once again, we go back to my formulas, which are all Eastern Chinese medicine, and they've been using these formulas for thousands and thousands of years because they work and they keep the pets healthy, they keep themselves healthy.
Yeah,
And we don't live in that society where we were born and raised into that demographic of like, let's keep you healthy rather than wait till you get sick to fix you.
yeah. Another thing that's real important about understanding the labels on these prescription diets is you have to understand that if there's a difference between food grade and feed grade materials, like raw materials that go into pet food. The food grade materials are foods that you and I would eat ourselves. So it's the quality of human grade type food that we would buy in the grocery store. It's been inspected, it's been passed for human consumption. So it is something that is non-toxic. It doesn't have the potential for harmful medications in it, for pathogens and things like that. So what they call the difference is feed grade, which is your typical pet food. It's feed. That's where the whole livestock feed comes from. It is made from like the rendered ingredients that are in like any kind of a meat meal type of situation. It's from 4D meats. It's dead, dying, disabled, or diseased animals. So they could have tumors on their body, they could be roadkill, they could be euthanized pets, they could be a cow that died in a field 3 days ago, and they are hauling all these animals, these carcasses off to rendering plants and putting them into pet food. That is feed grade. and the FDA thinks it's okay to put 4D meats, those types of sources, into pet food when that's not okay with me, and if pet parents realized that's the type of quality going into pet food, they would be appalled. They would be appalled. If it was labeled that way, would people buy it? Absolutely not. Um, and then you wonder, well, I don't wonder because I know why they find drugs like phenobarbital and these euthanasia drugs in pet food, and animals get sick and they die. They have, toxic exposure to chemicals. They find, pieces of metal and plastics in food that they open, and you know what I'm saying? They find all this junk that has just, because they just throw it into the big rendering pots. Like literally, they will take expired meats from the grocery store. You should always look at your expiration dates on the things that you buy at the grocery store. So let's say that you're a pet food rendering company, and the grocery stores have all this expired food, these meats and things like that are like, and it could even be baking goods expired, like anything that's packaged.
Everything. Yeah, everything.
So
Yeah.
do you think they take the plastic off and the styrofoam and throw that separate? No, they just throw it in all together. So your pet ends up eating plastics and foam and toxins. I mean, it is nasty, but they think it's okay. They just throw it all in there, and they just, the heat will destroy all that. Oh yeah. Well, that's how you get microplastics in food. That's how you get toxic byproducts of, it's awful. And that is no different than prescription foods. Like, they don't source human grade products to put in prescription diets. They just don't. That would cost them too much money. And, they're all about profit, which is why they raise those prices so high. So when you understand the difference between food grade, like we would eat, and feed grade that the FDA thinks is okay to put in pet food, even though it's lawfully, it's illegal, but they don't enforce the law. So that it's no different in prescription diets. So if you really want to find really good quality pet food, that's why it costs a little bit more. You have to really know your brands. You have to get on their website. You have to look into their sourcing. Are they supporting small farms? Are they using organic produce? You know what I'm saying? So those little things matter when it comes to pet food. And another thing that's real interesting is, and I find that just, I can't wrap my brain around this. Like in prescription diets, let's take cats with urinary issues. What do they give them? Dry food.
I was going to say, yeah.
Or kidney disease. We're going to put them on this dry kibble, and it's a urinary diet, and it's loaded with carbohydrates, and it's dry, and that's the worst thing that you can give a cat with kidney disease and urinary issues is dry prescription food. I don't understand. There's so much disconnect.
Well, it's just like, it's what we're talking about. It's like, we didn't know. I didn't know. You didn't know at one point. Our members that follow us, that listen to these after hours,
Yeah.
They don't know. It's all a learning thing. It's like, this is, I'm going, I love to always go back to Ryan when he first introduced me to how they make the food. And it's exactly what you were talking about, is that all the food grade animals get purchased up for human grade for human food. Mm-hmm. So what's left over is the feed grade. And that's what these kibble companies do, is they go out and they buy this feed grade animals. They have tumors, they have issues, they've got, health limps, whatever it might be. They have all these different issues. And then, he said that they'll put them into a big container, and in that container, they'll get they'll get the bacteria, they'll get the fungus, they'll get the bugs, they'll get the diseases and all that. And what do? They turn around, they take them out, they dip them in a chemical that's
Mhm.
carcinogenic that sticks into the meat at the same time, pull it out, kills all that bacteria, puts it in line with the rest of the feed grade, and then they make the kibble.
Mhm.
And then people are wondering why are their dogs, or animals having cancer when they're 12, 13, 14 years old, and they don't know why they're getting cancer because they feel like they've given them a good life, they thought. But in reality, you've been feeding them the wrong stuff and you haven't known that you've been feeding them the wrong stuff.
Mhm.
You know,
It's sickening when you really understand how pet food is made. You will never go back. You will never go back. It's like it would kill me if I had to feed my cats that stuff. I just am so grateful that I learned. Um, it's if and here's another what you were saying is so true because if you've ever gone to Truth About Pet Food's website, truthaboutpetfood.com, Susan Thixton has she's taken satellite images of rendering facilities and you see these big, in some cases, the big storage containers that are just open air and it's just filled with carcasses. This is
yeah,
not
the
air
containers. Yeah.
conditioned. This
Yep.
is outdoors in the heat,
Eat. Yep.
exposed to flies and birds and insects and whatever else, right? And it's just hanging out there until they need it, then they bring it in. In some cases, it's not even in containers. They just dump it onto the concrete, slabs, and it just sits there and there's blood and everywhere. And these animals are rotting, literally rotting in the
Yep.
heat, in the
Yep.
outdoors. And they're taking that and
And
putting it into your pet's food.
yep.
That's not okay with me.
Well, I would assume that it's not okay with a lot of people, but just a lot of people just don't know. That's the thing. That's the big
No,
thing. A
don't.
lot of people don't know this, and when you find this out, you get irate like we do, and it's just like, I'm looking at this little list that I have here, and it says like, the reality is like these diet foods do not include prescription drugs, like I mentioned earlier, or pharmaceutical ingredients. The term prescription diet is a brand label.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how they got around it. It's called a brand label. And that approved, it does not mean medication either.
Mm-mm.
And so when you learn this, and this is for everybody, all our people that are following us that are here today, thank you for being here. Be sure to hit the like button on both of our channels just so that we could bring in more people and just let people know what we're doing and why we're doing this. Um, but with you guys, I saw someone says, I'm going to be adding omega-3. I'm going to be doing some other stuff. I'm going to add this. I'm going to, you know what? Start, if you're not doing anything, start from basics. Just start
Mhm.
with healthy food. Let's start there. Don't worry about probiotics. Don't worry about all this other stuff in the very beginning. That stuff you can add on later, which is only going to enhance their health. But let's get their health into check by getting them off the bad stuff. So if you guys are in the room and you hear a food that you're feeding your pet is the food that we're talking about, let's make a change for your pet. Because you guys got to remember this too, because by you helping your pet eat healthier and have a healthier life, it's only going to benefit you as well later down the line. You're not going to have to be running back and forth to the vet all the time or wondering what's going on now. Why do they have this? What's causing this? If you feed them the cleanest, healthiest food you can now, you're going to be saving yourself a lot of headaches and you're going to be able to spend more quality time with them in the future.
Yes. Um, would you like to? This is another thing that I don't think a whole lot of people know, but I wanted to teach you guys a little insider trick today.
Yes.
Regarding the just any pet food really that especially that's dry. Um, but let's talk since we're talking about prescription foods, let's use those for example. If you look at the guaranteed analysis on the package, that will show you how much protein is in there, how much moisture, how much fats, things like that. It's like the big macro things. But guess what they don't list on that guaranteed analysis? They don't list the carbohydrates.
Right.
Now that's required on human products. If you read the backside of any human product, you're going to have fats, carbs, and proteins as listed, and they'll break down other things as well. But they don't put it on pet food. But their rule has changed apparently, and they have like what 2 more years I think before they have to start putting that on the labels. Um, but this is how you can determine how much carbohydrate is in your cat's food, whether it's a wet food product, but obviously that's going to be a lot less, but the dry food especially. So what you could, would y'all like to know? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, but I think it's pretty cool if you want to like learn this little trick. You take the number 100 to represent 100%. Okay, and you look at the percentage of protein on the guaranteed analysis, find the percentage of moisture, find the percentage of fat. And you're also going to look for ash. There's always an ash. And if they don't list ash, the average is about 6%. So you can just throw that in. So we take 100% and you subtract the percentage of protein minus the percentage of moisture, minus the percentage of fat and ash. And that number that you come down to is going to be what's left over, and that is your carbohydrate percentage. So it's an interesting exercise if you wanted to just start practicing and be aware of, well, I can figure out how much carb is in that food. And typically, dry food, especially even prescription food, is like 30 to 50+% of carbs, which is, we know that is not a carnivore diet
Right.
at, at all. Our cats can't live on carbohydrates. They need protein. Um, and some of the prescription diets will use things like corn, because corn has a percentage of protein. They use, different things that have a small percentage, but they throw a lot of these grain products in their foods a lot. Their special proprietary formulations. Um, but it doesn't make sense for carnivores to eat that food. I mean,
But
yeah, it's too many carbohydrates and there's nothing special about it.
well, it's the least expensive thing to throw in there. Usually
Yeah,
it's like,
they would rather spend the money on cheap ingredients than go buy more meat to put in it.
yep, yep,
I have a whole
exactly.
story on a whole, specific line of, not a line, but a specific prescription food we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
Um,
I wanted you to go to this question here. What's your thoughts on raw versus cooked? What's your thought?
you know what? Raw is going to have the most nutritional, like fresh enzymes. It's going to have, let's be real, the less processed, the more bioavailable something is that the body can utilize. So there's gently cooked, which is still very nutritious, and it doesn't get rid of all of the enzymes if it's cooked at a very low temperature for a very short period of time. But it starts it starts breaking down the food a little bit for some cats, that it's easier on their digestion. Maybe they have, illness or some late stage kidney failure, things. Older cats sometimes do better on a gently cooked diet, but we don't want to go super, super high heat for very long temperatures. So, like, your fresh is the best. So, that would be your raw, and then your gently cooked. Um, Another thing that people don't realize is that canned foods actually have so many advanced glycation end products, which are metabolic byproducts of high heat for fats and proteins. That it's just it's a cooking process, right? So if any of you know anything about cooking, when you put a steak on the grill and it gets that black char, on it, that kind of adds a little flavor to it, that's advanced glycation end product. That is a metabolic byprocess of heating the proteins with the fats together. But that in itself it's carcinogenic. They have
Yeah.
found that it is damaging to our bodies. Well, it's no different from the cats. So they cook these canned foods probably 3 or 4 times. I mean, they've gone through heating processes, not once, but multiple times. So they are just as a natural process of cooking, they do end up having these advanced glycation end products that contribute to inflammation in the body and that are carcinogenic. So we even that, it makes it hard because not every person can do raw or gently cooked foods. But at the end of the day, a wet food diet is going to be much better than a dry food diet just because of moisture for cats. So you just got to do the best you can with what you got, right?
Well, and that's it. Like we always talk baby steps. You guys, let's
Yeah.
walk into this baby steps. You're new to this. Let's make it baby steps that you walk into this. Let's give your pet a better diet. Just baby steps. Don't be like a crazy person like me where all of a sudden you look in my kitchen and all of a sudden I got all this stuff to make all this food and all of a sudden it's way too much. Just baby steps. Starts with baby steps. I wanted to pull up this other question that I think Karma asked or someone else asked. I think
Yep. Here's something that most people don't understand. What do cats in the wild eat?
anything,
Do they go to
everything.
the store? Do they go to the store and buy canned cat food? Do they buy kibble? No. They eat prey, which is raw food. It's at room temperature, body temperature, right? Um, Cats, number one, their digestive tracts are really short, and they have such high acidic levels in their tummy that are used to they're biologically designed to break down, you know, very things that they eat and pass it through their body really, really quick. So they're used to eating things that have fats or bacteria in it, and they don't really get affected by that unless they are like in a weekend, they're very sick or something. It can be harder on their immune system or whatever. But in general, cats can tolerate bacteria like salmonella. Um, because of the high acidic levels in their digestive tract. And it doesn't take long. I mean, if you've ever fed your cat, it's like minutes they're eating and the next minute they're in the box pooping. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yep.
it doesn't stay in their bodies as long as it does ours. And our bodies are different than they are. And then the other reality is that we all have, and cats too, they all have salmonella in as part of their gut flora. I mean, we all do. We have, but it's in balance, right? It's only when it gets totally out of whack that things go way wrong. Cats are really smart though. Not like dogs. Dogs just about eat anything, right? Cats are kind of particular. If something smells like it's not good anymore, they won't eat it. If it's spoiled, chances are they're not going to eat it. So if it's rare, I guess what I'm saying is it's rare that you're really going to have a problem with salmonella. Now, there are a lot of recalls for pet food for salmonella, but you know what kind it is? It's dry food. It's not. Go look up the FDA recalls for pet food, and most by far over time, it is the dry food that gets recalled for salmonella, not the raw.
And when you guys do that, if you guys decide you want to do that, you're going to be floored on
Shocked.
how many recalls
Yeah,
that are out there and
you don't
how
even go back.
often. Yeah, you don't need to go back decades. You could just go back. This last year, there's so many that even this last year, it's just horrible what they do out there. It's one of those industries that was really never really um, overlooked very well with the right people looking at it. In the very beginning, they just like, oh, food, pets, oh, nothing. Just give them anything, give them anything. But I think I'm hoping that all that changes here. Going forward with everything that's going on with all the raw foods that's out there, all the cooked food that's out there now.
Yeah,
I think people are now starting to see that there's options that they can do themselves and they can do it at home themselves. So You know, guys, just remember baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, because it just, I mean, this subject here just kills me. I
I know.
mean, it
Well,
just, yeah, it just, I mean, and I have to say, because my friend Ryan told me all about it, and he really walked me through the whole process. And when he walked me through the whole process, and he went to school to be a nutritionist,
yeah.
he he went to school to be a nutritionist for pets. And so when he got out, he went to one of these big companies. We've mentioned them today already.
Mhm.
And when he got there and he started to discover how they made the food and how they were cooking the food and how the food was just sitting there in the sun, like we talked about, um, he just was appalled. He was like, "Wait a second, this can't be," and it is. It's true. This is, here someone spent all this money to go to school to be a nutritionist for pets, and all of a sudden they go to the biggest companies thinking they're going to be the best company to work for, and they're actually one of the worst companies to work for because they don't care. They care about the dollar.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now there is a special high prescription food by Royal Canin that is hydrolyzed protein that they put on they put cats or dogs on that have super like food sensitivities, and they can't eat anything, or they have severe allergies and things like that. um I was I did a podcast with my friends over at Pet Health Junkies, probably a year or so ago, and we were diving into labels. It was so much fun. Um, when you look at the ingredients for this hydrolyzed diet, and I have seen several clients that have been put on this food, it absolutely makes my skin crawl. Because we all know that cats are carnivores, right? But guess what? There's zero protein in that food. Zero. Zero. And they have these vets have these cats on this food for months. And then they wonder why they just deteriorate. They have zero protein. It is all plant protein. It is a bunch of soy. It is wheat. There's probably some corn and rice and whatever in there. But I just remember going through that label, and I was appalled. Like, how can you even make a product for cats and have zero animal protein in it and expect them to thrive or survive? You know what I mean? And they don't do it well. They don't do well. It's infuriating. It doesn't make any sense. There's no logic behind that for me, why you would even do that, you
Well,
know?
yeah, well, we know the logic is it costs too much money for them to put the protein in it, so they keep it this. I don't know. It's just like
Well,
it's
a lot of times in these hydrolyzed diets, they want to hydrolyze the amino acids and the proteins, like they semi break them down first so that the body doesn't recognize it as a chicken, as a turkey, as a fish or whatever, so they're less reactive. But at the same time, there's no animal protein in it. So how are they supposed to utilize soy? Soy is horrible. And soy is one of the most highly sprayed plants of glyphosate. So you're exposing your cat potentially to a lot of pesticides. And glyphosate is one of the worst. I mean, it's linked to lymphoma and cancer and tumors and everything else. And there's no protein. I don't understand. Like, help me understand, why is that okay? Why? And pet parents just take the bag and go home and don't even question. Now, the people that I get, they're like, I don't want to feed my cat this food. When I look at the label, it makes my stomach just sick. And they want to get their cats or their dogs off of this food as fast as they can. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
well, and someone was talking. We were talking about this. I was talking to somebody about this in regards to their pet, and that had so many allergies to the food and had so many, this problem. They can't eat this food. I'm like, well, have you guys ever stopped and thought about maybe starting from square one again versus putting them on all the specialized food that by the time you go up here, this is so little specialized food that's just going to work for them. So maybe if you go back to the basics and
Mhm.
start over with real food, maybe they're not going to have all these issues that are going to be causing all this eating the specialized food that's really not even really specialized food.
Right. Yeah, I would go back to a fresh, limited ingredient diet. And if, for some people who can do the food sensitivity testing, there's testing kits that you can order online. They send it to your house, and you send in the fur sample or the saliva sample or both, and they can run their tests and tell you what your cat is sensitive to or highly reactive to, even if it's not a protein that they've eaten. It looks at how the gut would react to that particular substance. And if it's a high reactivity, even though your cat hasn't had it before, you don't want to feed it. Um, it's very interesting, but that can be very helpful if you want to narrow down, like, what are the triggers? Like, what is setting my cat's immune system or my cat's digestive system off the rails? So you just have to. I just tell people, be smarter about how you address these kinds of issues, especially when it comes to foods. If you're really struggling with foods, work with an integrative vet like Dr. Katie Whitley, who has a gut health program that's phenomenal, and she's turning around these cases for pets that are struggling with so many gut health issues. Um, so yeah, do you want to answer the, you want to go on to
Yeah,
this question here?
I just did this. So, Lori, I just put into comments, you'll see it there. We did a live on all different natural flea remedies. So I just posted that in the chat so you can see it. So check out that because there's so much information out there that you don't have to go with chemicals.
Yeah.
So yeah, so check that out and give those a try, okay, Lori? And then also last week and the week before, we had Jenny on here, and she has a cat that's very, he's in his golden years and he's got a lot of things going on. So she's really dug deep into this, and so her information's in the description on those lives, so you can actually find her information as well because her cat could not do chemicals at all. It just gave him, was it seizures too? Or he had issues, something
So
like that.
he's very allergic to the flea bites, the flea toxins
Okay.
that bite him, and he's very reactive to that. So yeah, it's the toxins.
Yeah.
If your dog has seizures, there's obviously an imbalance there, and that's something that's affecting the brain, something neurological. But again, I would go back and look at detoxification, like chemical exposure, flea medications, all of those are neurotoxins and they do affect the brain. And vaccines can also contain heavy metals that are neurotoxins and settle in the brain and cause seizures and things like that. So you've got to start going through all of your history and go identify all the things that your dog has been exposed to that you can look at and go, oh my gosh, there's metals, there's vaccines, there's, if you did, if you looked up every ingredient in the flea medication products that they say is safe and okay for your pets,
Oh,
and they tell you don't get it on your skin, make that make sense.
I
You
know.
know,
Don't you like when they say wear gloves when you spray this?
right? It's like, wait, you want me to put it on them, but you don't want me to get it on me? Like
Right? Yeah.
they're 15 times smaller than me. What? That doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, maybe I shouldn't be putting it on them if I shouldn't be putting it on me. Um, but yeah, you got to look at all the sources of potential toxins and start working on getting rid of those toxins. There are ways to do that very safely. I work with people all the time to help them do that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a big one. That's a
it's
big one. We talk about that a lot, on the channels. And when we're talking about getting rid of toxins, not just even the flea toxins, just the toxins in your house too.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many, we don't realize it, how much we use so many chemicals to clean our house, our detergent for our laundry. Everything we use has chemicals in it. And a lot of it's not natural, or
Mhm.
most of it's not natural. And that's all. I mean, we're big people.
Yeah.
It's hard to get into our system, but think about these little fur babies that are this big.
Yeah.
Their bodies just suck that stuff up, and if you're putting it on their skin and they're wearing flea collars with all this chemical and all this kind of stuff, their body is just getting overloaded with chemicals. In fact, that's one of the things Pam has talked about here is the fact that to do a detox, that's something that you might want to do too when you're going on this path of trying to find something that's holistic for your pet, is to maybe start with a detox. What do you think about that? Do you think that's always best to do? Where do you stand on that, Pam?
Well, I am a super big proponent on detoxification, but you really need to know what you're doing, and you have to do it in a safe and effective way, so it's not disruptive and it doesn't cause more problems. So you need to work with somebody who has some experience with that and knows, how to face things and how to ensure that the pet is even ready to go through a detox, because sometimes their gut health is not in any shape to be able to do that. So we have to really take a very cautious approach with some pets. But fortunately, there are so many wonderful products that can help with detoxification just very gently. And for cats, it can be a challenge because they don't like things that taste bad. So I've been able to find a lot of things that don't taste bad.
Well, and like Pam's saying, everybody in the chat right now, it's like if you have a cat and you have issues with your cat, some people are like, oh, it's going to cost me all this money to work with somebody. Da da da. It's going to cost you more money in the long run not to work with somebody. I want to say this. It's like I'm a designer here in Los Angeles, and I I tell my clients all the time, here I work with people that build, multi-million-dollar houses, you know, anywhere from 10 to 20,000 square foot homes.
Mhm.
And there's some young couples that say, "Oh, well, we could do it ourselves. We'll get the furniture ourselves. We'll do all this." You'll save money by hiring a designer than doing it yourself. I guarantee you. I've proven that over and over and over, where people make so many mistakes where they didn't know the measurement of a wall. They didn't realize if that, I walk in and I look at plans, and I could look at a plan and say, you know what, if you just move this wall, this one wall on your plan, it's just on paper right now, it's not built yet. If you just move that one wall 3 inches more this way, you'll be able to get yourself a 9-foot sofa in there.
Mm.
If not, you're going to be stuck with a little 7-foot sofa. And that's where you save that money, is like by us finding those mistakes. So by hiring someone like Pam or myself or anybody that that's out there to help you and your pet win, succeed, it's the best thing you can do, because you're pumping all these chemicals in your pet. You've got to do it gracefully, and working with somebody to do that with, that knows how to do it. I say spend the money. You're not gonna regret it in the long run. You're gonna be happy that you did it, because one, you're doing it the right way. Two, you're on your way to a better health for your pet.
Yeah. And you will probably only buy what you need instead of everything that everybody says you need.
Right. Yeah. Instead of going on Amazon going, oh, detox my pet. I need one of those. I need one of those. I need
Yeah,
one of those.
you may not need all that.
Yeah.
So it just helps you streamline the whole process
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. What you doing, Breeze?
Um,
What you doing?
so everybody, if you guys are just joining us right now, where we started today is just like really the myth behind, the pharmacy, your vet selling you prescription diet food out there. It's not prescription. There's no medical additives to those foods. It's just a name, a brand name that they're saying. So the food that you can make at home, the food that you can find by working with somebody, is going to be much healthier than what you're going to find even at the vet.
Another common thing that people don't really understand on that label of the prescription food, and this is very common with a lot of brands, is they use synthetic vitamins and minerals because they're cheaper. Um, and so sometimes those can be like those choices can be toxic. Just there is a difference between certain types of synthetic products that are acceptable in pet food, um, sometimes they even use stuff that really is not. And it's shocking that, you know, that still gets passed. But yeah, so just keep in mind synthetic ingredients are going to be used in those products. So they're synthetic vitamins and minerals are not really fully recognized by the body. So they don't get utilized the same way because the body's like, what is this? There's maybe a part of that that has a receptor, but then, in the cells or whatever, but it's not going to work as good as something that's a natural organic vitamin or like, for example, a food source instead of something made in a laboratory. That would
Yep.
be
Yep.
that would be much, much better for your body and for your pet's body because it's more recognizable in that particular form versus something formulated in a laboratory. So there's a difference between the vitamins you buy at Walgreens and the vitamins at a really reputable company, right? Food source versus synthetic. That's also very important. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, one of the things that most people don't really know is, they'll say, oh, this food contains carrots and blueberries and cranberries and all of this on their label. When you look at the label, the cranberries obviously are not in the first five ingredients. There is something called the salt divider on a pet food label. So if you're going through all these, the long list of ingredients and you see salt, anything past salt is less than 1% in that product. How much benefit do you think less than 1% a blueberry would provide in that food? Or a cranberry, that might be like one cranberry. But they put it in there so they can show it on a label and make it look like it's more appealing to us as pet parents, thinking, oh, well, it's got blueberries and it's got cranberries in it and it's got carrots and it's got kale and it's whatever else. But look at where that is on that list. And if it is past salt, it is less than 1%.
Yeah, Brian mentioned that before, and I totally forgot about that. It's like there is that marking point in salt,
Yeah.
is that marking point where anything above it, you got a good chance of having some of that in there, but
Yeah.
anything below it,
It's
kiss
like,
your butt goodbye.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's really not providing much of a benefit.
yeah, and I want to go back to that synthetic thing that you're talking about because that so many people get so fooled by that. They're just thinking, oh, synthetic vitamins. There's no such thing as there's vitamins are not synthetic. Vitamins are vitamins. When they come up in these labs and they're like, well, this acts like vitamin D, so we're going to call it a synthetic vitamin D. You guys know synthetic. It's not the same thing. It's like I mentioned this last week. I had Dr. Judy Morgan on, last
Mhm.
month, and we were talking, and it really pivoted my husband and I to really start shopping around the edge of the store. We do this, we all cycle through this stuff. You guys in the chat, you guys do this, we do this. Everybody does this where we get on these kicks and we want to be healthier with ourselves. We want to be we want to buy wiser for ourselves, and we end up going on these kicks. And so we're on one of those kicks right now. Thank you, Dr. Judy Morgan.
I love her.
I know. Well, it's funny because it's like we're like even like we found these wild frozen blueberries, and they were like these mini frozen blueberries, right? And they're like, and it says 2 times the oxidant on the bag, right? And I'm like, well, what makes it 2 times the oxidant? So I flip over the bag, and I was quite surprised because what was in there was just blueberries, frozen
Mm.
blueberries.
It's
You
probably
know,
where they were grown, the soil.
yeah, it's where they're grown, and it doesn't have all that extra added stuff that's taken away from the oxidant, the antioxidants. So
Yeah.
it's like, so the fact that it's so natural and it's like almost 100% natural, that's why it's got more, you know, antioxidants, is because it's full of antioxidants, because that's all it is. So
Mhm.
it's like, so it's really important to look at like we're talking about the label for your pet and for yourself. I mean, I challenge everybody for 2025 that's in the room right now and who watched this, really take a pivot for your health, take a pivot for your pet's health. Do this together. Don't just do it for your pet, do it for yourself, because I guarantee you're going to feel so much better. And it's funny because, like, we're always talking about my formulas about, the Eastern Chinese medicine and how long they've been around. They've been around for hundreds of thousands of years. The Chinese have been doing it for themselves, and then they do it for their livestock, and they do it for their own animals now, from time to time. But it's like, there's a reason why they're doing it, and they've been doing it for so long because it works.
Yes. If
The
it didn't
byproduct,
work, people would stop doing it.
it's crazy because, like, I I've been taking, we do this, and I talk about this one. I've been taking longevity myself. I take it in the morning and I take it at night. And I feel I feel like how, I feel like my system's running smoother. If I
Mhm.
was to say, if I was to put my finger on anything that's going on with me, what would it be? And I would say, I feel like my system's smoother. It doesn't have a lot of interruptions, or I don't know how else to say it, but it's just like I feel like my my body's stronger
Mhm.
without going to the gym. I feel like I have a healthier, and I just started this last since Dr. Judy. That she's the one who got me on this again. It's like, okay, what can we do? What do we have? I mean, we're lucky because we have all these Chinese herbs here at our place. We can just pick and choose and say, okay, what do we need now and all that. And it's amazing how just starting with the simplest little things can make the biggest difference for you, because, like, if you do it for a year, just think where you're going to be in a year. If you start today, where will you be next year?
Mhm.
Where will your pet be next year?
Yeah.
you know yeah, it's a game changer, you guys. So just, I challenge everybody, just, don't just think about your pet, think about yourself too. Let's get you guys on a little health kick too, and just, cut out some of that bad food that you guys are eating, because I know I was sneaking my hamburgers from McDonald's, and that's the worst thing in the world. I had my Big Mac not Big Mac, my quarter pounder with cheese. I'd have to have at least once a month, and now I look at it and I'm like going, ah, Michael, think about the ingredients in there before you drive in the driveway. Just think about the ingredients, and that stops me. That stops me. And even like when we're shopping these days, it's like we're 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 so used to picking up things. I mean, how often do you do this? You're so used to picking something up that you buy from the store that you've been buying for how many decades or how many years, that you
Mhm.
don't think twice about what's in it. Well, we're picking up stuff now that we've been buying for years ourselves, and also we're looking at the ingredients. We're like, what? And our food has synthetic stuff in it,
Mhm.
all
Yeah,
over the place.
it's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you sit there and you're just like going, oh my God, how can we be doing this to ourselves? Well, it's supply and demand. What can, I mean, I don't know. This is one thing that's always perplexed me, where I think about, it's like, where is our food chain really going for the future? Where
Mhm.
are we getting our food sources from? How are they keeping up feeding this many people on the planet healthy? They're not. The
Yeah,
food's
there's
not.
gonna be some changes for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
When
crazy.
other countries can do it better, and they are doing it better, you have to ask, why are we not doing that here? But I think it goes back to big food corporations owning, everything and things like that. So when you when those when those companies are held accountable, and we start to ban certain ingredients in foods, like the food dyes, like glyphosate, things like that, you're going to see a shift in health. You just can't help but see a shift, because you take out the things that don't need to be there, that are contributing to weakening the body and making people sick and toxic and unhealthy. So yeah.
Yeah, because, like, how many times have we don't even realize that we're fighting ourselves in our own health, because we're eating stuff that's causing our health to break down, and we think it's something completely different, or we got a cold or something else, when in reality it's what we're putting into our system. And if we just stop for a second and just look at what we're putting in our system, and maybe pivot from there and
Mhm.
put something better in our system, maybe we wouldn't be in some of the situations that we get ourselves into.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I just wanted to pull up Karma really quick. She said she's been meal prepping organic for years for meat and
I love that.
now also her pets. I love that. And that's, I mean, that's where we want to be.
It makes a difference. It absolutely does.
You know, you said you've been doing it for years for yourself, Karma. I mean, was there something health wise that happened in your life, or was there a moment in your life where you're like, wait a second, I'm going to treat myself better? What made you go that direction? I'd love to hear your response to that. Because usually I find that when we talk to people and we talk about their journey and how they ended up getting inside the pet industry, usually they started in the human industry in the field that they're in, and they actually saw that the pets need it just as much as we did,
Mm.
and then that's when they started going to the pet, and that's how they got in the pet industry, and it was just kind of like a natural progression for them. So she says, yeah, she had chronic migraines.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that probably has helped with your migraines. Do you have them still, or do you? Let's see how that is. How's your migraines these days? Do you get them from time to time, or do you have them once in a while, or have they disappeared? Oh my God, and you see this
Mm.
left. Yeah, yeah. Well, someone was talking about seizures, and there was a study done with CBD and kids with seizures, and a lot of people were actually moving to states where they could actually get their kids on CBD because of the cannabinoids had something to do with helping prevent the seizures in kids.
Mhm.
And of course, big pharma is like, oh no, 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 and they're like they're slamming it, but the proof is in the pudding. People are moving there because they they see a difference in it. And one of the things we don't we don't we used to have this. I thought we had this at one point on here. Yeah, right here helps alleviate seizures. Our no more drama that herbs in here helps with pets with seizures.
Mm.
And it doesn't get rid of them. It just reduces it. I don't know what causes the seizure, what triggers it, or what brings it on. But I had a gentleman that came to me and he had a cat, and she was in her golden years. I want to say 15, 16 years old, and she was having seizures all the time. And he came to us, and I said, well, you know what? It sounds like we want to get her on no more drama and get her anxiety down, and maybe that will help reduce the seizures as well, just not being anxious all the time. And a year went by, and he wrote me the most beautiful note saying, Michael, I just want to say thank you so much for coming into our lives. We were able to spend this last year together with less seizures and
Mm.
more fun time and
Yeah.
more time together than running back and forth to the doctor all the time. And so there's so many things out in the world today. If you just do your work, you can, do your own investigation. You can definitely find it. You can find something out there that's going to help you. And big pharma doesn't want you to find these things. So sometimes you have to dig a little deeper.
It's true. That's true. I thought of a couple other things that pertain to this prescription food, if we can circle back.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
a lot of times vets will tell their clients, your cat has to eat this the rest of its life. But that can be very detrimental because prescription diets are supposed to be used for a time, for a specific condition, not for life, because they actually are formulated in a way to that can reduce certain nutrients, or on some level it can be, if you put them on that, it can actually cause nutritional deficiencies in some ways. So it all depends on the formulation. So one of the things that I learned from Dr. Katie Woodley, who you know very well, is that if they're going to use a prescription food for a while, it needs to be for a specific period of time, and then you go off of that, because otherwise it can start to have, your pet can start to have other problems because they're not meeting nutritional requirements in on that food. If you don't see a difference, and I mean a significant difference in using a prescription food, you need to stop the food. It should be changing, it should be reversing a condition. And if it's not, it is not the answer. Just say, you know what, we're not doing that. We're going to go a different route. I wanted to also tell people that there is now a a holistic alternative using whole foods. It's by Medicus. And Dr. Chris Besant with Herbsmith is the genius behind this. She formulated her own veterinary diet using whole food ingredients. So it's formulated for like cats with diabetes and cats with urinary or kidney issues, and I think there's digestion and something else. But she actually uses real food. There's no synthetics. It's real, like fruits, vegetables, proteins, fats, things like that, that are formulated in a way to support whatever health issue. And it's actually a great alternative. So if the vet says, your cat needs to be on this urinary diet, say, I'm going to go use Medicus, which is made with whole ingredients, real food, instead of all this crap that they put in their prescription stuff with these other brands. And you can get great results, and again, it's for a specific period of time. It is not for life. And I think that's something that we need to remember. Just like when we go to the doctor, if we have an infection or something, we are taking maybe an antibiotic for 7 to 10 days, not for life. It's for a short period of time, and then you need to reevaluate how you're doing. It's not just don't let them talk you into being on something forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my goals right now is like, I look in my medicine cabinet and I feel like I'm a pharmacy. I'm like, oh my God, what happened here? How did I get here? And I was injured last year, so it's like I've been dealing with a lot of that kind of medicine, but it's like I'm doing everything to get myself off of that medicine. In fact, even like we talked last week about energy, I've been really focusing on the energy of my hip just to like really kind of like take the attention off of it. And there's been good days, there's been bad days, but and I could see where that energy is changing it, by me saying, okay, let's look at it like this instead of like this, and just putting better energy around it. It seems like it's actually helping. I did want to go back to Amanda's comment here. She goes, yeah, for me, cancer diagnosis flipped the switch for me, and sugar, poison, broccoli, medicine. And that's so true. Serge and I, we're talking about that right now. It's like, he has a yeast infection in his system, and so he's fighting it with our yeast formula, and it's done better than anything that he's gotten off the market, off the shelf at CVS or anything like that, and it's doing really well for him. But one of the things that he's doing now, which is really cute, is every time he looks at something, the first thing he looks at it, he looks at it like sugar. Like, is that full of sugar? If that's full of sugar, I don't even want to touch it. I mean, like I got the oil change on our car the other day, and it was right across the street from a donut shop. Whoa, donuts. And so I went across there, and I, thought I'd buy myself one and just sit there and wait for the car to be done. And sure enough, they talked me into just at least getting 6. Just get a half dozen. You don't need to buy a whole dozen. Just get a half a dozen. And I brought home half a dozen, and all of a sudden, Serge is like, we need to throw these away. This is just sugar. And it's true. It's just sugar, and that stuff is horrible for our system.
Yeah.
So Amanda, yeah, I hear you right there with that sugar. It's like that is poison. Sugar is poison.
It is inflammatory. It is very inflammatory. Absolutely.
Here she's asking, you talked about a holistic doctor's link information.
I just put it in the chat over here. It's medicusveterinarydiets.com.
That one right there, right?
It's the link is actually below, but yes, that's the name of the brand, and you can go straight to their website and look and see what they have.
Yeah, there's so many people out there. I mean, we're lucky today. We are really lucky today because we live in a world where people are conscious.
Yeah, it's growing.
Most people are, we'll say, but they're conscious of like what they're feeding themselves, what they're feeding their pets, and so there's so much information out there now that we get to do our own homework now and actually, and learn so much about this. Like, like what I did today is learn about, the word prescription food for vets. And when I found out everything that I found out today about it, I was just like, it's like a scam. That's how I walked away from it. I'm like, this is nothing but a big scam. Again, another, they're not selling anything else in their thing, but this prescription food.
Well, and the reason that is because they get 3 hours of nutrition in vet school, and it's taught to them by these these prescription food for pets companies. It's taught by Hills. It's taught by Purina, probably Royal Canin. So it's taught by them to teach them how to use those foods for whatever ailment they're trying to whack them all, right? That's
Well,
the
and I was
nutrition that they get in vet school. That's it.
right. And the school's not even having to pay for them to come teach them because they're teaching
Probably
them for
not.
free, right?
Probably,
So they're getting free
probably.
education.
Yeah,
Right.
and they're given these free pet food by these companies in vet school. So they're buying their allegiance before they even get out of vet school. So guess what they're going to offer when they open their clinic or they go to work in a clinic? They're going to sell the food that was given to them in vet school that they learned about how to use. So it's I call that a conflict of interest, but that's just me.
Well, you would think that it is a conflict of interest, but it's like you said, they go to school to learn how to take care of the the health of the pet if they're injured or whatever's going on with it, and
Yeah,
they're not really there to learn about nutrition. So they're
yeah.
just going off what they're being told. And once again, we were talking about this last week about the paradigm that you live in.
Mhm.
What paradigm are you coming from? What paradigm are you living in, or you come from with pet food? Let's talk about that paradigm. Are you coming from a family that was kibble, kibble, kibble the whole thing? Of course, you're going to say kibble because that's what you grew up with. But guess what? You get to change that paradigm now.
Mhm.
You get to choose to make a difference in your pet's life. And what's really beautiful about doing that, you guys, is like if you right now at your age, and I'm assuming that most people here around are probably younger than myself, but close to, you get to make that paradigm for yourself. And by you doing that for yourself, I guarantee your kids are going to pick that up,
Mhm.
and they're going to say, wow, if mom's doing this. I mean, you guys have to see this picture. I was showing this today. These are pictures. I get pictures like this all the time from you guys, um, saying, how their fur baby's doing. And where is it? I have to find this. It's so, so, so cute. It's gonna take me a second. That's not it. I have a lady. She lives probably about 30 minutes from me, and she's an older lady. And she sent me this picture the other day, and it just to me it was just like it's just these are my clients.
Yeah. Oh, sweetie.
I mean,
Yeah.
I I never, it was interesting because when we first started our formulas, and I started, we didn't know how to advertise it. It's a
Mhm.
big breakthrough. We're breaking through a paradigm of thinking for people because people have never thought Eastern medicine for pets. What? They short circuit when they think about it sometimes. And so, we were in Palm Springs because it's not too far from us, and we were there and we were, visiting with the pet store. And so we would always bring like travel sizes and hand them out to people for their pets that were walking their pets and tell them about our program and all that. And at first, we found in Palm Springs, I don't know how much you know about Palm Springs, but it's usually an older demographic.
Mhm.
It's like the snowbirds go there during the winter in Canada or wherever, so they get out of that coldness, and so they're an older demographic. So at first, we were getting a lot of like doors shut on us. I was like going, "Wow, don't you want the best for your pet? Oh, kibble's fine for me. That has been working years, and it's been, and but now it's like I don't know what's happened in this last year, but like I want to say she's in her late. This lady here's in her late 70s, early 80s. This
Mhm.
lady that I just showed you, and that's Trixie. It's with her. Um, but I have so many of these ladies now that they call me once in a while, and they're like, "Okay, so she's doing so good now, doing this. What should we do next? And how can I want to home cook? I want to learn how to home cook." And I send them a video. I send them to a website or something like that, and it's so beautiful to see how they're changing their paradigm because they have 80 years of paradigm there that they're changing right now with their pets
Yeah.
and changing the food and changing the way they're doing their health, their wellness and all that. And it's working for them and they see it. And I like the stories I get is so so beautiful. And it's like part of that, I was sharing with my client today at lunch, and we were talking about, our pets have a time frame. Like we have a time frame. We're here for a certain period of time, and then we transition. So do our pets. Unfortunately, our pets go a lot quicker than we do, most of the time. But you look at this and you see her, and her dog looks like she's in her golden years too. So they're trudging buddies now, and so I'm hoping she's treating herself as good as she's treating her dogs now. But it's just so beautiful to see these people that their pets mean so much to them. So why not give them the best that they can give them? And I kind of lost where I was going, but I think I came back to I do that from time to time. But anyway, so okay, what do we have here? Do we have any other thing that we want to answer real quick? You see any questions here?
I don't see any other questions. I see a lot of great comments, but I don't see any.
Yeah, well, Carmen, because I'm pissed about those RX diet scams. And they're scams, you guys. They really, I just found this out today because I always thought, oh, they must put some sort of prescription in there. You have to have a prescription from your doctor to get it, and then all of a sudden I'm reading this and it's none of that.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, it's really, really, really upsetting to read this information. So everybody, do your homework, read this, and share with your friends, and just let them know about what's going on inside the veterinarian office. That and it's okay. Let them sell it, but let them sell it to people that are not doing their homework.
They're building customers for life.
But they are.
Help someone who really has your health in as a goal, like for your highest good. They're going to get you healthy and say, "Don't come back." That's not what we see with pets. They just like, "Oh, you got to come back in. You got to come back in." And sadly, a lot of these pets are on this like merry-go-round, like I was talking about earlier, and they just don't. Number one, they don't even realize they're on a merry-go-round. Number two, they don't know how to get off of it once they realize they are. They're kind of stuck in a bad system. You know what I mean? So it takes a very special, strong-minded person who's educated themselves, who is confident about what they've learned, that can go against that traditional message. And then a lot of times it takes a tragedy, unfortunately, to kind of get us to shake us up enough to go, whoa, what was I doing? And I'm not going to do that again. You know what I mean? If you talk to a lot of people in the pet industry, like myself, who got in it for whatever reason, it typically has to do with a pet that had, that needed help or that died, because of something we were doing. And we can't go back and change that, but we can learn from it and we can do better the next time with the next pet. And so that's the goal. That's why we're here. We want to, when we know better, we can do better. And that should be all of our desire,
Well, that's why we do what we're doing here, is to bring this knowledge to people and let people, start to, do their own research and figure out. So do you find people come to you with this situation saying, you know what, I've heard you speak before, I've listened to your YouTube, I want to make a difference in my pet's life, I don't know where to begin. Do you walk them through that?
Yeah, I mean, we do. That's basically that's why I have my YouTube channel. I have so much content on there. That's a big can of worms to unpack. So instead of overwhelming people, I just say, you know what, start on the YouTube channel and just start going through videos and watch all those interviews on different topics that kind of jump out at you, and you'll learn something. But you can't eat. It's like the expression, you can only eat an elephant one bite at a time. It can be overwhelming at first, so don't overwhelm yourself. Just dive in. So if your cat is struggling with digestive issues, just go watch videos that like I have on my channel. Go watch Dr. Katie Woodley's videos. Go watch Dr. Odette Suter's videos. There's so much great free content out there that can help you start that learning process. And it's just baby steps, like you said, you know. And the more you learn, the more empowered you feel, the better you can do, and you can start to make these better choices, and then you will start to see the results in your pets. And that's the icing on the cake, right? When we see the difference that making these changes is doing, that motivates you to even more to keep learning. It's a never ending cycle as we keep learning because there's always more to learn, and there's always more new information, new studies, new products, new testing kits, new technology coming out that helps us move that needle. So it's always progressing, you know. They say in life you're growing or you're dying. Is that the expression? It's like you're never, if you're standing still, you're dying. If you know, so we're either moving forward or we're moving backwards. So you have to decide which direction you want to go. Don't get stuck in the back, you know, don't look back. Always just look forward. Just keep going forward.
One step in front of the other. Someone had a comment here about crystals, and I think would that be another show that we should do? Do you see it here, right here?
The feline cystitis, and yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of reasons for feline cystitis, and most of the time people don't even think about the ones that I know about. So, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so we'll do a show on that, okay, Karma, so that we can dive deeper into it. Um, oh my God, I just today's been a whirlwind for me. Just I found myself. Do you do this, Pam? I found myself once I started reading one article, I went to the next article, and then I went to the next article, and I was like going, and they're all kind of still pointing the finger back at it's all full of BS,
Hmm.
and I'm like, why haven't they stopped yet? Why isn't it governed? I know that they keep saying that they want to start governing this stuff better. What's your take on that? Do you think they'll ever really do that? Or do you think it's just they're just gaslighting us, just thinking that they're going to do better, but they really don't want to do better because they're making enough money just doing what they're doing right now,
Do
as
you,
far as like the foods that are out there and the quality of the food?
are you talking about the vets or the companies that make food?
I'm talking like the vets are participating in the companies that are making the food.
Mhm.
They're playing into it, saying, "Oh yeah, we've got these science meals for you to buy." But what's your thought about that? Do you
Well,
think we're moving into a direction where we're going to actually have more insight on this going forward, and people are going to be more responsible in what they're doing with our foods for our pets?
yes, because we're already seeing a shift. Like one of the fastest growing segments of the pet food market is gently cooked foods. That was unheard of 5 years ago. More and more people are learning about the benefits of fresh feeding. We call it fresh feeding, not necessarily raw feeding. Um, so as people learn, this is all consumer driven. So pet food manufacturers are trying to meet consumer demand. That's what it's always been about. Um, Even brands like Purina are trying to jump in on this bandwagon with gently cooked formulations and things like that. So, do I trust them? No. But are they, maybe they're trying to do better because they see a demand in consumers? Great. That's awesome. Um, I think again, it's all about consumer demand. And when we make our voices loud enough, these brands stop and pay attention. Um, we have to hold them accountable
Yeah.
because I don't think we can expect pet food regulation to always hold them accountable. We've seen that in the past. I don't trust FDA. Um, I don't trust AFCO. I think it's big food, right? It's really about protecting the big brands of big pet food. It's about feed grade. That's all it is. I don't trust them either. So if I can't trust those kinds of companies, regulation, whatever, that means I have to know my shit so
Yeah.
that I can do better for my cats. And if that means I need to home cook or prepare my own, diets following a balanced recipe, then that's what I have to do. If I can find really good brands that support the things that I think are important, that have good quality food, then I'm going to do that. So you might have to do a blend of things depending on what you have available. But again, we can take that into our hands, but we have to do it responsibly and we have to be informed. We have to be educated on how to do that. But luckily, there's so many resources available now to us that weren't available even 5 years ago. So, yes, I think the demand is going to change, or the demand is going to inflict the change, if that makes sense. So,
Interesting. And I would even add on to that is because people are now starting to demand this and these companies are starting to step up, we think, but do we trust them? I agree. I don't
no,
know if I trust them,
prove
but
them, you know?
it's a good thing for us to do is like when we get their bottle when we get their food, look at that label. It's supposed to be good now. Let's see where's salt on here. What's below salt, right?
What's in
Or
it?
what's in it. Let's see what's really, is it once again puffery? Are they just pretending that this is going to be, you know, good, healthy food? Or are they just using puffery just as another sales gimmick because they know that that's what we're screaming for? So
Yeah.
we have to do a check and balance on those people as well.
Well, and here's another thing that I've seen just in the recent months. Um, the work that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is doing, bringing, exposing information, bringing it to light that has been suppressed for decades by big pharma, by big food. Like there's people like me that have kind of been in the know and found out about how toxic food dyes are, for example, years ago, 20 years almost. I've known about that, but the general public does not. The general public doesn't know that there's red dye 40 in their foods, or, yellow 5 or whatever, and they don't know how toxic food dyes are, for example. As people are finding these out and these things are being banned in human food, they're going to stop and make that connection eventually, like, well, why the hell is this still in my dog's food? Or why is this in my cat's food? If it's not in my food anymore because of XYZ reasons, it shouldn't be in their food. So I think it's just a matter of time before we have that trickle down effect. And
Right.
you're going to see the same focus of whatever is going to be removed from the human food space and the human food industry, as this is not acceptable anymore. It's just going to have a trickle down effect into pet food because people love their pets just like their kids. They will spend money on them, money that they don't even have. They'll spend it on them for, because they just love them, right? They're family. So if it's important enough for their own health, they eventually make the connection. And again, I think it just goes back to awareness. They don't know what they don't know. Um, and so, we keep seeing little wins like this, and the exposure of Monsanto and glyphosate, that's finally being put into the public sphere. A lot of people have known about that, but I would say the vast majority don't even know what glyphosate is, and they don't even know where it's hiding in their food. Um, so little things like that. I think we're going through this great awakening, and it is a consciousness. It's an expansion of consciousness. It is the greatest time to be alive because we are going to be seeing so much good change in the next few years. It's going to blow our minds. And society, I mean, humanity, not society, humanity is raising their consciousness, and we are moving to a different level. And that comes with that, the stuff that doesn't fit falls away, and everything that does fit rises. So I think it's just going to be like a byproduct of all of that.
Well, and I think, I just thought of this while you were saying this is the fact that because we are putting that demand out there and we do want better, is like, when I asked that question about how are they going to be able to produce enough food for us? Well, how they can produce enough food for us is get rid of all the shit in the food, and then they can actually have healthy food that you don't have to eat a gallon of it to have the nutrition out of an ounce of it, if that
Well,
makes sense.
I think also we have been lied to about the potential of growing enough food. There is more than enough farmland and land on this planet to support the amount of people that live on this planet. So that we have been perpetuated a lie for years saying the population is too great, we can't support it. No, that's BS. They've been suppressing and, you know, consolidating again, it's all marketing and it's all about the dollar. It's all about profit and greed. So when you remove that aspect, you find out there's so much farmland out there. We need to do a better job in our soil. We need to go clean up our soil. We need to go take out all the toxic waste that's been dumped and the glyphosate. We need to rebuild our soil so that we can have more opportunity for, let's go back to the way it used to be 60 years ago before all this industrial, mass production kind of went off the rails and people stopped paying attention. Um, Again, I think it's going to go back to consumer demand, and there's more than enough opportunity, and get back to the way that our ancestors used to grow their food and raise healthy, animals for consumption and things like that 100 years ago. Um, we can do that. We're smart enough, and we just have to do it.
Yeah, one of my fantasies is to have a farm and be able to grow all my own foods and just, have it organic and holistic and just, knock that out. You're talking about, there's a thing that, we just had the fires here in Los Angeles, right? I'm jumping off topic real quick because this is, I think, a good thing for people to just know again what our government's doing to us. And so my sister was over here yesterday for my uncle's. I had dinner for my uncle, and so they came over, and my sister was like coughing a little bit. And what's going on with you? She goes, I don't know, my bronchitis. I was like, my chest is getting heavy. Da, 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 da. And I'm like going, well, what do you think is causing that? She goes, well, I thought it was the fires, but the fires are over, right? And I'm like, well, let me think about it. And it took me a little bit to think about it, but what they're doing is they've got the Corps of Engineers going in there, cleaning up the property. They're
Mhm.
not really taking their time the way they probably should to clean up these properties. There's so many toxins, asbestos, how many
Mhm.
bad chemicals are they moving around? Well, they're driving right by her house every single day, one truck after another truck after another truck going to a dump near her. And I'm like, Debbie, you need to move. That stuff is blowing out of those trucks and it's coming into your vents and you're breathing all that toxic stuff going back and forth on Las Virgenes Highway, which
Mhm.
is right into Malibu. And I'm like, and that's what our government, you have to look everywhere for this stuff. That was just one of those things where all of a sudden I didn't even think about it. And when I thought about it, I actually Googled, I'm like, where are the dumps that they're dumping the fire material from?
Yeah.
One's right by her house.
Mhm.
So it's just like the same thing, so we really have to get back to, basics, just with our health, with our food, with everything that we're doing in our life, and just, really, we can make the change for ourselves. Yeah, a farm in Tuscany, that, Karma. I love that. Yes, that's where I want to be, a farm in Tuscany, for sure. Um, we are at our, wow, God, the time flew today. We've definitely dove into this and dove out of this and dove into this. You guys, everybody, thank you for being here today. I just want to say thank you to Pam as always for being here with me, holding this room down. You guys take this week, do some digging and just see what you're feeding your pets and seeing how you could just make that little change. Once again, you don't have to make a huge jump. Just take a little change. Just do baby steps right now, and let's get your cat and you as well into a healthier lifestyle. Why not? Why not? You can do it. Why not? We can do it. Together we all can live a better, healthier life if we just put our mind to it and just stop for a second and quit rushing so fast through life. You know, we just always are just run, 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 run. And it's like, okay, here we are. Any closing thoughts, Pam?
No, I just share this with people who are feeding their pets prescription food.
I know, right?
They don't know, but they don't know, and that was me, and that was you. So it's just a matter of bringing it into their awareness. And once you know better, you can do better.
Yeah, well, that's what I learned today. Is like I had no idea prescription food was not prescription food until today. You know,
Yeah.
well, guys, that wraps up our deep dive into prescription diet controversy today. What's actually in these foods and how they might or might not help your pet. Huge thanks to Pam once again for sharing holistic thoughts with me and you. And thank you guys all for joining our live today. The key takeaways, not all RX foods contain actual medicine. So remember that. If you're at your vet and it says RX on it, it's not medicine. Just know that. The dry food paradox can especially be problematic for cats. So be very aware of feeding your cat dry food. You know, they need that moisture from their food. It's one of the main sources where they get their moisture. And, you know, there's so many healthier alternatives out there. Just look, you know, dive into it, you guys. Let's do our research. Everybody do your research. And we'll be back next week with another topic. And until then, everybody have a beautiful, beautiful night, day, wherever you guys are throughout the world. We really appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to hit the like button for Pam on all her channels and my channels so that we can bring more people in here. And we will be doing more rooms. And I see someone asking about dog allergies yet. I've actually got one on my YouTube on the pet journey. So you can go there and you could look at that. And we're always adding more to it. So feel free to dig into that. And you guys, Pam offers a 20-minute consultation. Is it 20, 15 minutes?
The 20.
20. Feel free to reach out to her if you have any questions. Let her just get you, let her get you just in that first baby step going in one direction. You know, why not? You know, because we're really here for the health of your pet and the health of yourself. And, you know, we can make a difference together. So with that, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I'm Michael with the Pet's Journey. Pam, thank you. I'll see you next Tuesday. Until then, namaste, everybody. Have a beautiful, beautiful week. And we will see you next week. Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.